Hello and welcome back everyone to another pre-recorded lesson video. Today is lesson 2. Hopefully y'all went back and watched the video for lesson 1. I know I didn't have a virtual class yesterday and I made y'all watch the lesson video. Sorry about that. I was caught in a meeting and I couldn't make it back in time to hold the virtual class. But starting today and moving on, everything should be back to normal. I'm done with meetings and everything like that. So if you haven't watched the lesson 1 lesson video, please, before you watch this one, go watch the lesson 1. It's really important because we actually do start the play and the book. And I do provide a brief summary in that as well. Okay, but today we're basically going to be learning about the same things. We're going to be focusing on Act 1, Scene 1. The focusing question for this lesson is, how do the characters in A Midsummer's Night Dream understand love, right? A Midsummer's Night Dream is the book that we're reading. Hopefully y'all know that. And the content framing question for this lesson is, what's happening in Act 1, Scene 1? So we're basically going to summarize exactly what is happening in Act 1, Scene 1, which is the first scene of the movie, okay? Let's go. The learning goal for today is we're going to be able to summarize the conflict between Aegeus, Hermia, Lysander, and Demetrius. Those were some of the main characters that were introduced in Act 1, Scene 1, and these characters are going to be coming up a lot in the future acts and the future scenes, right? They're some of the main characters. And there's going to be an assignment that's going to be sort of like a discussion post, but you don't have to respond to any of your classmates. You're basically just going to write 2 to 3 sentences that summarize the main conflict or problem in Act 1, Scene 1. You don't have to pay attention to the woo, bewitch, or vexation, okay? Let's go. But I want y'all to quickly brainstorm. You don't have to jot anything down or anything like that. I just want y'all to think in your head or maybe think aloud about how you would go about getting someone on a date. What are some ways to get someone's attention on social media? I know, especially for your generation, social media plays a big part in how you talk to people and how you interact with people every single day. I would guess like a majority of y'all are on some form of social media, whether it be like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, anything like that, Snapchat. And how do you show someone you care about them more than others, right? This play and book is about love and relationships. So it's really nice. So it's really good to think about how you go about, asking someone out, or how you go about, or how you act in a relationship, and putting yourself in the shoes of these characters in the play, right? That only helps us further our understanding and helps us further understand exactly what is going to be happening in the play, okay? So I want you to just brainstorm about those questions a little bit. And if you want to share them with me, that's perfect. You can email me or message me on Schoology how you go about getting someone on a date, or what are ways to get someone's attention on social media, whether it be maybe liking their posts on Instagram or maybe DMing somebody, or maybe you text them first instead of talking to them in person because maybe you're a little bit shy. I know whenever I was in school, we would pass notes a lot, and we would have a website called MySpace. Maybe some of y'all heard of it, and we would message each other on that. That's how we would get other people's attention. But also, I am a lot older than everyone here. But moving on, the 2 vocab words that we're really going to be focusing on today is woo or bewitch. Hopefully, y'all have heard of those words before. Woo is basically to seek to win the love or approval of. It's basically someone working really hard to get someone's attention and get someone's love. Just think of a really romantic person, right? Working really hard to get someone's love. Like, you can also think of maybe a romantic movie, how the main character tries really hard to get like the approval of the main female character in the movie, right? They're very romantic. They try really hard. That's an example of woo. To use it in a sentence is basically, they wooed me off my feet. I'm wooing that person, right? The other word is bewitch. Is basically to enchant or cast a spell over with magic, or as if with magic, or to charm or fascinate. Woo and bewitch, very similar, but the main difference is bewitch has sort of an ulterior motive. You may be, being very romantic, trying to win this person over, but you're doing it for a different reason, right? Maybe it's for a bad reason, or it's you don't have the same intention as someone wooing them. That makes sense. For the definitions for this book, the main definition for bewitch is that cast a spell or magic over, right? So we're going to be talking about if some of the main characters are either wooing the person they want to be in a relationship with or bewitching them, okay? So I want y'all to think, is wooing someone the same as bewitching them? Why or why not? Let's think about that question a little bit. And in my opinion, I think it's two different things. I think wooing is you have it with the best intentions, the best reasons. You're doing it for love. Bewitching, you're doing it for a different purpose, in my reason. Moving on, a little summary of what happened in Act 1, Scene 1. These are the main characters that were introduced, or the 7 characters that were introduced in Act 1, Scene 1. The main ones were Aegeus, Demetrius, Hermia, and Lysander. Those are the ones we're going to be focusing on today. Aegeus is Hermia's daughter, or Hermia's father, right? And he wants Hermia to marry Demetrius, okay? But Hermia loves Lysander, and Lysander loves Hermia. So these two are in love, as you can see by the heart and the arrow. And Hermia does not like Demetrius, right? Hermia does not want to marry Demetrius, but Aegeus wants Hermia to marry Demetrius, right? Aegeus likes Hermia, Aegeus likes Demetrius. He hates Lysander, right? And we're going to be looking at the relationship between Aegeus and Lysander today, and why Aegeus hates Lysander so much, okay? So what basically happened is Aegeus wants Hermia and Demetrius to marry, but Hermia wants to marry Lysander. So what Aegeus does is he goes to Theseus. And Theseus, I know right here it says Duke of Athens. Another way to describe that is he's sort of the leader of the city they're living in, which is Athens, Greece. He goes to Aegeus and says, Aegeus goes to Theseus and he says, hey, Theseus, I want Hermia to marry Demetrius, but she's refusing to. So could you help me out here? Could I force her to marry, or if she doesn't marry Demetrius, could I kill her? Right? And you have to remember, this is from a long time ago, right? This play takes place a long time ago. That's how they sort of operated back then. They were sort of crazy. So Theseus says, hey, Aegeus, you're right. Hermia should be listening to you. You're her dad. So Hermia, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 4 days. So you can either decide to marry Demetrius, become a nun, or die. And those are 3 terrible choices, right? Especially only getting 4 days to make a decision like that. So what Hermia decides to do is run away with Lysander, and they decide to run away to the woods to marry each other in secret and just leave their city and live by themselves from now on. Okay, that's basically the main conflict or problem that they are encountering in Act 1, Scene 1, right? These two want to marry, but Hermia's father won't allow them to marry because Hermia's father, Aegeus, wants her to marry Demetrius, and Hermia has 3 terrible choices of either marrying a man she doesn't love, becoming a nun, or dying, right? So she decides to take another way out by running off into the woods with Lysander. Okay, that's basically what happened in Act 1, Scene 1. I know it gets a little bit confusing, but what I would do is I would read that cartoon summary of Act 1, Scene 1 I uploaded in yesterday's folder, and in today's folder. I'm going to upload that in both folders, and I think that's really going to help y'all understand it a little bit more, okay? Moving on. So remember, we're focusing on these 4 characters and what the relationships between these 4 characters are, right? So the relationship Aegeus is Hermia's father, right? That's how they're related. He hates Lysander, and he wants Demetrius to marry Hermia, right? Why Aegeus went to go see Theseus is Aegeus wants Theseus's help because he's the leader of their city into forcing Hermia to marry Demetrius, right? He's very, very, after the meeting or during the meeting, he's very angry at Hermia and Lysander because they want to marry each other and he doesn't get why, right? And I just want y'all to really just brainstorm and think about the relationship between these 4 characters, right? A lot of them have to do the same thing. In Act 1, Scene 1, they're really just angry towards each other. Hermia went to go see Theseus because she wants permission to marry Lysander, right? But Theseus doesn't want that. He says, no, you had to listen to your father. You need to marry Demetrius, right? It's 4 different relationships, and the problem gets shown immediately in Act 1, Scene 1, okay? Next. So I pulled 2 paragraphs from the actual play and showed the original modern part. I'm just going to read the modern version. It says, Actually, I'm going to read the original, then y'all can read the modern on your own. So the original says, "Full of vexation, come I with complaint against my child, my daughter Hermia. Stand forth, Demetrius, my noble lord. This man hath my consent to marry her. Stand forth, Lysander, and my gracious duke. This man hath bewitched the bosom of my child. Thou, Lysander, thou hast given her rhymes and interchanged love tokens with my child. Thou hast by moonlight at her window sung with feigning voice verses of feigning love, and stolen the impression of her fantasy with bracelets of thy hair, rings, gauds, conceits." So this is basically Aegeus explaining to everyone in the meeting that, hey, Demetrius has my permission to marry Hermia. Lysander doesn't. He's basically talking about how, given the reasons of Lysander and how he's tricking Hermia, and the vocab word that we focus on in the beginning, bewitch, gets shown here. So it's basically, how does Aegeus feel about Lysander's relationship to Hermia? Right? I want y'all to think about this a little bit. Right? How does Aegeus feel about Lysander's relationship to Hermia? How he feels, as we can see in how, especially in the modern text, it'll be a lot easier if you read the modern version. He is not happy. He doesn't understand why Hermia likes Lysander. And as we can see, here's why Hermia likes Lysander. He's very romantic. He's wooing her, right? He's trying very hard to get her love, and he gets it. Hermia loves Lysander. He writes her poems. He gives her love songs, right? He gives her rings, toys. He gives her jewelry, flowers, things like that. He's wooing her. He's trying really hard. But Aegeus doesn't see it that way. He thinks that he's bewitching her. He thinks that Lysander has different motives, different reasons for going after Hermia, and they're all bad reasons. He thinks that Lysander has literally cast a spell over Hermia, and that's why Hermia likes Lysander so much, right? So Aegeus is upset that something has been stolen from him, right? But he doesn't fully understand how it was stolen. Since he thinks it happened by magic, he thinks Lysander used tricks or magic to get Hermia to love him. Right? He doesn't fully understand why they like each other, and he thinks Lysander is playing some game here. Okay? Another paragraph I pulled out is Theseus talking to Hermia. I'm going to read the original. "What say you, Hermia? Be advised, fair maid. To you your father should be as a god, one that composed your beauties, yeah, and one to whom you are but as a form in wax, but him imprinted and within his power to leave the figure or disfigure it. Demetrius is a worthy gentleman." So remember, that was Theseus talking to Hermia, and he basically says the words, "You should treat your father as a god." So why does Theseus say that Hermia should treat her father as a god? I want y'all to think about this. But in my opinion, why Theseus says that Hermia should treat her father as a god, it's how they lived back then. It was a system called patriarchy, where the father of the house or the man of the house made all the rules, and everyone had to listen to him, which is sort of a messed up way of living. He's basically saying, Hermia, the way that you are right now is because of your father. You should treat him as a god. He's the one that gave you everything you have, your beauty, everything. And it's up to him whether he wants to help you out or not, whether he wants to do anything. You should always listen to him. That's the system that they're living in. And that's the reason Theseus gives to Hermia that why he should listen to him. He literally says to him, you're like a figure that he's personally sculpted out of wax, right? Like a sculpture. And he has the power to keep that figure intact or to disfigure it. So he has that power to either keep you the same or, again, kill you, right? That's his power. That's his will, which is sort of messed up. So back then, a father could control the decisions of his daughter. Fathers control their daughters like property. Aegeus tells Lysander that Hermia is his to give to whomever he chooses, right? So it's sort of a messed up system, but that's why Hermia decides to run off into the woods with Lysander, because she didn't like any of the choices she was given, and she felt like she had no free will, right? So that's going to lead us into the assignment for today. What I want y'all to do is write 2 to 3 sentences and answer the question above. Question is, what is the problem in Act 1, Scene 1? I want y'all to summarize the conflict, and I'm going to show y'all how to get to the assignment. If it would load correctly. This is going to be our second discussion post. This is Act 1, Scene 1 summary. So write 2 to 3 sentences summarizing the problem / conflict in Act 1, Scene 1. You do not have to respond to a classmate, right? So that is your assignment for today. That is going to be your second grade. So if you have any questions, about that assignment, let me know. Message me on Schoology or email me. But that is basically it for this lesson. Make sure that you read that cartoon version of Act 1, Scene 1. But if you don't have any questions, I will see you here for the next lesson video. Bye.